gonna be, are they on, are they on the call tonight? They are online.
Yeah, Karen's gonna confirm that both have signed on, so I'll be doing a roll call.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday, October 22nd, 2020 County Kern Planning Commission hearing. I will officially call this meeting to order. The County of Kern provided notice that as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to COVID-19 pandemic, and in light of Governor's order, this current County Planning Commission meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comment are accepted via email or voice message to the clerk of the commission prior to tonight's meeting, and live comments via teleconference will be held during the meeting. If you're interested in providing comments on any item on the agenda and have not already received direction how to do so, please contact the clerk at 496-7487. We will begin tonight's meeting with commission members' announcements or reports. And this will be after we do roll call first, though. So let's turn to roll call first.
Mr. Ashley?
Here.
Mr. Judge?
Here.
Mr. McGiffney? Ms. Skidmore?
Here.
Mr. Sprague?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Simon?
Here.
Okay, now we'll move on to.
McGiffney. I'm here. Did you guys get my chance?
We got you, Commissioner McGiffey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to commissioner member announcements and reports. On their own initiative, commission members may make announcement reports on their own activities. Do I have any fellow commissioners who want to make any announcements tonight? See none here. I would turn to Ms. Skidmore, Mr. McGiffney. Seeing none, move on to approval of minutes, October 8, 2020, item number C. If there are no modifications to the last item proof of our minutes, I would request a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on to case of withdrawn or request for continuance. This is item number 1, so you pay out number 23, and I think I'm going to turn over to Mr. Murphy, which I believe is on the line to cover this item tonight.
I am. Thank you, Commissioner Judge, members of the Planning Commission. We have one item that is being requested a continuance by staff. That is conditional use permit number 23, map number 47. The applicant is RB Inyo Kern Solar Project by R&L Capital Inc. And the staff recommendation is to continue that project until November 12th, 2020. That completes the items that are being withdrawn or request for continuance.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And are we to take a vote on this continued item tonight? And so I will request a motion for that.
Motion to continue.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or roll call vote,
No,
correct.
I had to do roll call. Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Judge?
Yes.
Mr. McGiffney? Ms. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Mr. McGiffney?
Yes.
All ayes.
Thank you. Moving on to item number E, consent items. These are items scheduled before the Planning Commission hearing which are being recommended for approval by the staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objection. The hearing in these cases may be expedited if no member of the commission or audience wishes to comment on or ask questions on these cases. Tonight we have two cases, case number 2 and case number 3, and it's my understanding that these items would like to be heard in the regular order. Can I have a comment from staff or any fellow commissioners on this?
Sure. Chairman Judge, through the chair, yes, since we established and sent out the agenda, we have people that want to comment on both of these items. So staff recommendation is to actually just consider both items in their regular agenda item and their order.
Okay, so hearing that from staff, we will hear item number 2 and number 3 in their regular order. But prior to doing that, we will move on to public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on this agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes, and we'll ask you to state your name for the record before making your presentation. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers tonight that would like to make any public presentations?
Chairman Judge, there have been no requests for anyone to make a public comment.
Okay, seeing that there's no request for public presentation, I would close that item and then move on to our regular items in their order. That will be item number 2. And I will turn over to Mr. Murphy to give us the item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Simon is actually going to present case number 2, but I will be happy to present case number 3 when it becomes that time.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I will turn to Mrs. Simon, which is here in our presence, so thank you, Mrs. Simon.
I decided to show up, just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Murphy, and good evening, Chairman Judge and Commissioners. This project was originally scheduled to be considered by your commission on its October 8th, 2020 agenda. However, subsequent to the distribution of the staff report, staff required additional project clarification to move forward. Therefore, this item was continued by your commission to allow for further staff evaluation of the project. The project before your commission is a request for a conditional use permit to allow an agricultural trucking facility that would include a 12,000 square foot maintenance building, and the total footprint of the proposed project is 4.77 acres of an eastern portion of the approximate 8.73 acre site. And I'm going to have Ms. Eichenhorst put that up onto the screen so everyone can see the site plan.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. The project is located on the north side of Bear Mountain Boulevard, approximately
We lost-
100.
We have lost video.
Oh, yep,
No, I had it.
Sorry,
that's okay.
Simon, I'm going to ask to see if we get a video back up prior to you continuing.
Absolutely.
And if we cannot get it back up, we'll let you keep continuing with your presentation. Little technical difficulties tonight, huh?
Oh, there we are.
All right, back online.
Thank you. The project site is located on the north side of Bear Mountain Boulevard, approximately 150 feet west of South Union Avenue in the unincorporated Bakersfield area. The site is zoned A, exclusive agriculture, with a map code designation of R-1A, which is an intensive agriculture, by the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan. Surrounding parcels to the south and east are generally developed with agricultural operations or vacant land with scattered residences. A recreational vehicle park is located further south on South Union, and a large nearby dairy is east of the project site. Property directly north is developed with a single-family dwelling with stables, and that is approximately 150 feet north of the project boundary. And to the west is a home site residence that is connected to an active irrigated agricultural field. Highway 99 is located west of the site as well. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to construct the agricultural trucking facility, again, on the eastern portion of the lot. The facility will consist of a 12,000 square foot truck maintenance shop, 12 standard vehicle parking spaces for employees and visitors, and 13 truck cab spaces, with parking and spacing for 50 truck trailers that would be used for hauling agricultural produce such as fruit, vegetables, and food-related products. The applicant has indicated that truck cabs could be hooked up to all 50 trailers, although the total number of trips to and from the site a day would be a maximum of 14, as documented by the applicant to Caltrans. The applicant also intends to retain the existing single-family residence with accessory structures on the site situated on the parcel just west of the proposed project. And the purpose of that existing residence would be as a caretaker's unit for the project and would be occupied full-time to ensure site security. Plans show the project site only will be surrounded by a newly constructed 6-foot-tall masonry wall to the north, east, and west of the project boundaries, with a wrought iron fence along the frontage of Bear Mountain Boulevard. The applicant has stated the refrigeration trailers may be running all day and night on site depending on the scheduling of the trucks. The applicant has indicated there will not be any outside generators on site to power the refrigeration trailers. The trucks will utilize one driveway on the site that is a right in and right out, as required by Caltrans along Bear Mountain Boulevard. Maintenance and routine repairs, such as heavy machinery, engine repairs, will be conducted on-site wholly within the wholly enclosed 12,000 square foot maintenance building. The operational statement indicates the facility would be open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, closed on Sunday. Subsequent to the distribution of the staff report, the applicant's representative communicated with staff that these hours of operations were intended only for the maintenance facility, and that depending on the delivery schedule, trucks would be entering and exiting the site at any time of the day or night. During the course of the processing of this request, staff notified surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the project site, including affected agencies and county departments. Comments received comprised of standard agency comments, departmental comments governing road development and improvements, maintenance, and county standards as needed, including necessary fees and reviews to applicable agencies if the project is approved. Public comments were also received from the adjacent property owners to the west and north of the project site. Specific concerns were identified related to the additional truck traffic, noise from the trucks during the night, dust, emissions, and other nearby trucking uses. Staff reviewed those concerns and have provided responses in the attached staff report. I would like to summarize a few of those concerns and how staff has addressed them as part of the evaluation process. Related to traffic, the applicant proposes a maximum of 14 truck trips a day, which has been reviewed and accepted by Caltrans. The applicant will continue to consult with Caltrans to ensure safe development with necessary improvements as noted in Caltrans' provided comment letter. Currently, the proposal includes a condition that would require a right-in and right-out only at the one driveway on the site that would limit left turns for potential safety issues along Bear Mountain Boulevard. Pertaining to emissions, the applicant will be required to consult with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District and the Kern County Environmental Health Department during implementation and operation to comply with environmental regulations. On the subject of noise, staff is recommending conditions of approval that all noise-inducing maintenance operations that use power tools will be required to take place within the wholly enclosed 12,000 square foot maintenance building. Such repairs that would take place within the building would be heavy machinery and heavy engine repairs or tire changes. Repairs such as air filter changes would be allowed outside the building. In addition, a condition has been included that requires a 6-foot masonry wall along the north, east, and west boundary lines of the project site in order to create a noise barrier for the running of the refrigerated trailers overnight. In regard to there being several truck companies in the area, staff conducted research of county records of nearby area and found approximately 5 varied truck operations north of the proposed project site, approximately 1.5 to 2 miles away. These uses appeared to be truck storage and off-site hauling for heavy truck repair maintenance specifically. The 5 existing trucking uses are located in similar agricultural zoning, but unlike the proposal, all appear to offer services to the public. These uses have been recorded on the Kern County Planning Land Use Boards attached to the staff report packet and date back to the 1960s, where many of these projects existed at that time. In addition, 2 of those potential projects appear to have gone through the conditional use permit process, similar to this project. Subsequent to the distribution of the staff report, staff spoke with the applicant's representative regarding the concerns for 2 conditions of approval. The first is the requirement for paving of the site instead of the use of decomposed granite as a surface medium. The second concern was for the hours and days of operation that would limit the trucks from entering and exiting the site at any one time. Concerning the recommended surfacing, the site with asphaltic concrete. This is a requirement as part of the development standards of the zoning ordinance under section 1980-030D, which includes projects that would be within an A-zone district and states that all maneuvering areas shall be paved. Given the nature of the trucking and repair operations on site, staff continues to believe that condition 5H remain unaltered and continue to require the concrete to prevent potential occurrences of blowing dust that are more common with decomposed granite. Agricultural trucking facilities that utilize decomposed granite are generally located on or near agricultural fields that produce would be coming from, and is generally a seasonal enterprise and not located immediately adjacent to home sites. Finally, decomposed granite cannot be painted with stripes in order to enforce the recommended limit of the number of truck trailers on site. In regard to the limitation of hours and days of operation for the trucks to enter and exit the site, excuse me, staff believes that although this is a transitional area located in close proximity to Highway 99, it does not automatically make it a prime location for a 24-hour operation at this time. The site is also surrounded by agriculturally zoned properties with home sites without any other facilities along this portion of Bear Mountain Boulevard. Typical agricultural trucking facilities tend to be located in rural agricultural areas that could support additional site disturbance and are located adjacent to fields that are serving during seasonal operations depending on the crop. This proposal is not seasonal or exclusive to one crop, but is meant to serve a variety of fields in an area that could range from Salinas to Bakersfield, serving multiple fields. Because of this difference, staff took into consideration the two home sites immediately adjacent to the site that could be negatively impacted by the noise, especially during the nighttime hours. And staff believes that even with the masonry wall, the hitching and unhitching of trucks, maneuvering on site during all hours, and turning the refrigeration units on and off would still result in noise nuisance during nighttime hours. And although there is a highway commercially zoned property across the street where future commercial development may occur, the potential nighttime activities at this time would not be compatible for what is currently developed in the area, which is currently vacant. Finally, staff has evaluated the operational statement, and it was understood that the hours of operation were given to staff as for the whole of the site, which was compatible with the area in staff's evaluation. Therefore, staff believes the limitation of the hours and days of operation is appropriate for the context of the site and the surrounding area at this time. Staff would like to note, though, that the applicant can propose a modification to hours to expand the site at a later date where a formal modification to the conditional use permit will be required and will be reevaluated by this department. Your commission has received comments from Caltrans this evening regarding the improvement requirements along Bear Mountain Boulevard. All the applicable conditions in relation to the Caltrans requirements are currently incorporated in the conditions of approval. Your commission has also received the applicant's operational statement at the request of the applicant's representative. In respect to this request, staff used the operational statement to evaluate the proposal and it is compatible with the and to determine if it's compatible with the surrounding area in order to make recommendations for your commission's consideration. Operational statements do not determine what is allowed as part of the project and does not necessarily mean that staff recommends conditions for the project as such, but uses the statement when crafting recommended conditions of approval. Staff is recommending conditions of approval to reduce the potential impacts to the adjacent parcels. These include locating the parcel on the east side of the project parcel, requiring all noise-inducing maintenance operation take place within the wholly enclosed 12,000 square foot maintenance building, limitation on the number of truck trailer parking spaces on the site, and limitation of hours and days of operation, all of which have been included for your commission's consideration. As proposed, the facility complies with all county development standards for the location of an agricultural trucking facility within the A district as recommended by this department. It is within your commission's purview to amend any of the conditions of approval that have been recommended by staff. However, findings by your commission must be made to support the decision to amend any conditions. Staff is available to assist with revisions your commission deems applicable and compatible with the project and the surrounding area. Staff continues to believe compliance with the recommended conditions of approval as adopted by your commission would ensure the project is developed appropriately and safely. Therefore, staff recommends your commission approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution. Thank you. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Simon, for that detailed presentation. I will now turn to see if the applicant or the representative for the applicant is available for comment. Madam Clerk, is the applicant on the line tonight?
Yes, the applicant and his representative, Jim Del Marder, are on the line.
Okay, so if I could have either one of you please unmute yourself. I believe it's *6 and state your name for the record. And
Well, Mr. Chairman, my name is Jim Del Marder, and I'm representing Mr. Dillon, the applicant on this project. Typically on this type of situations, the commissioner asks for those in favor of the project and those that are opposed to the project. And typically you hear from those opposed to the project first. And so I'd like you to ask if anyone is opposed to the project to speak before I do.
well, Jim, I really appreciate your feedback on our processes, but we'd normally like to hear from the applicant first to have you provide your comments, and then we then move on to people that are opposed, and then we allow you a chance to comment back after that. So with that being said, if you have some comments to make, we'd love to hear them now.
Well, okay. We originally submitted this project over 14 months ago in August of 2019. One of the letters in opposition in the package is dated October 18th of 2019, which is a little over a year ago. It's the same letter that is being added to this project. In March, early March, right at the time of the shutdown, my client and I met with Mr. Murphy and Ms. Simon to go over the project and see if we could get it submitted and heard by the Planning Commission. It's taken 10 months to get to this situation, or excuse me, 7 months to get to tonight's hearing. We received the staff report last Friday, and we were basically hit with these two conditions, that one of which makes the project infeasible, that being the hours of operation. I'd like to stress that we are going to have a maximum of 14 trucks a day delivering products to and from the site. And so the hours of requiring those trucks to come and go during the operation hours of the maintenance building, again, make this project infeasible. During the, as Ms. Simon said, during the process of this project, we have had our maps submitted showing how we were going to develop the property with the decomposed granite or gravel, depending upon the desires of the client, and the maneuvering areas with an asphalt concrete driveway and asphalt concrete parking for the employees and visitors. We also originally showed a chain link fence surrounding the property that would be screened with slats and so forth. Subsequent to that, we were informed that we would be required to build a block wall along 3 sides of the project, which is a very expensive undertaking. Also, the original plan showed the decomposed granite or gravel parking, and last Friday we received the conditions to find out that these hours of operation were restricted to the daylight hours, essentially, and that the site would have to be completely paved with asphalt. This is a very expensive situation to accommodate, and also we would be required to provide additional drainage facilities to handle the runoff from an asphalt parking lot that would normally be absorbed through the surface of the decomposed granite and or gravel. Basically, we appreciate the staff's recommendation of approval, but I feel that we have to protest the 2 conditions that have been discussed this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Prior to moving on, I do have a couple of questions. I will turn to any members of my commission, see if any comments for the applicant prior to moving on to other speakers. I would turn to Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reading this over, I think that using decomposed granite in that particular area with the residential units there will produce a good amount of dust. So I agree with staff as far as putting down some paving in the parking areas and the ingress and egress areas.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sprague, I believe that Mr. Murphy wishes to speak on a couple of points here
Okay.
before you continue, if
That's
you don't
fine.
mind.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd like to see if any direct questions for the applicant prior to any of the speakers on his comments?
No.
No, okay, so before moving on, Mr. Murphy, before we move on, I have one quick question for the applicant. You said the hours of operation. Can you clarify what hours of operation that you were expecting this in prior to the comments, so I can have understanding of your concern, please?
Well, the hours of operation that are in our operational statement are basically for when the maintenance facility would be operational. Truck traffic and truckers are not on a strict schedule. They're necessary to be called when the product is ready to be picked up, and if they have to pick it up in Salinas, then they have to leave at a very early hour in the morning in order to get there for them to be on site to pick up the product when the facility that they're picking it up from is open. By the same token, once they pick it up and they come back to town, they don't necessarily come back between the hours that we specified in the operations statement. They need to be able to bring their vehicles on site and park them for storage overnight until they're ready to be processed or moved on to the next destination.
Okay, so Michelle, I appreciate that. So I just wanted clarification. So my understanding is you're looking for 24 hours operations, is my understanding of what you're asking, correct?
For the trucks themselves, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I need to emphasize, there are 14 trucks. And I've heard Mr. Sprague mention dust. This is a very confined site. The traffic, the speed that these trucks are going to be traveling on this site is going to be very minimal. And the dust capabilities can be minimized by spraying palletives on the material to reduce the dust. And if it's gravel, there is no dust.
Okay, well, appreciate your comments. If we need any more clarification, we'll reach back out to you, okay? Thank you very much. Prior to moving on to any other comments, I think, Mr. Murphy, you wanted to speak on something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only I'd be happy to respond to some of those, but my only comment was that before we went through any specific discussions regarding the project, I believe it's most appropriate to hear from all those that want to provide comments first before we discuss some of the specific details of any of the conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I think we're on the same page about that. I just want to get some clarification on the applicant, and we will now move on to others. Are there any other individuals like to speak on this project, Madam Clerk?
Chairman Judge, there are two members of the public that have requested to speak. The first up will be Michael Barancato. Michael, if you could please dial *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm here.
Michael, hello, welcome, and please state your name and feel free to start speaking. Thank you.
Michael Brancato. Okay, number one, there was only one truck stop in this location between Bear Mountain and Houghton Road. That was Anderson's truck stop in the 1960s. All these others have come in the 80s and the 90s. I currently live across the street from one that's exactly like this, and they're in and out of that truck yard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They make dust. They use their Jake brakes on the highway. The house shakes every day, every time a trucker goes in and out. With that being said, Bear Mountain Boulevard, traffic backs up to the east about a mile in the afternoon. And to the west, the traffic backs up to the other side of Freeway 99 from about 3 o'clock to about 6 o'clock in the evening. This truck yard that they're putting in is not just good, is going to be a 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week operation, as stated. Okay, and it's going to vibrate the house. The Bear Mountain Boulevard is not designed to put up with that kind of heavy traffic all the time. We currently have trucks parked along the side of Bear Mountain Boulevard in front of this guy's property, and it causes a traffic hazard every day. Now, I've lived out here since 1976, and it has progressively gotten worse. That property was sold to this gentleman as an ag property by Mr. Busby, was the real estate person, who told him that he has 3 irrigation wells on that property to irrigate the property. And all of that has fallen through the wayside. All he wanted to do was put a truck yard in there, and knowing it was a strictly ag land, he bought it to turn around and do what he wanted with it. That is wrong. Wrong on his part and wrong on the people that authorized the sale. Okay? Now, I want to know, when he goes to expand on the west side of the house, because currently the only way in there is an 8-foot wide or 10-foot wide driveway, okay, then it's going to come right up against our property. It's going to cause dust, decomposed granite, or ground up cement. You put it down, you drive on it, and it creates dust. How do I know? Because I got it at my other ranch. And every time I go down the road with the crushed concrete, it creates dust. These people have made almost zero attempt to contact us right next door. And I don't feel that is a neighborly, above board, no morals, no ethics, and no values. That's what it shows me. And I am opposed to this at this time. There are plenty of areas within Kern County that are zoned for that, what he wants to do there, that he can put it there. He's going to cause me nothing but misery over here. And I am highly upset about this. And all he has to do is put one lug of grapes or tomatoes or one watermelon on a truck, pull it in that yard one time throughout the year, and it qualifies for ag. And that is so wrong on so many accounts. It's misleading. It's immoral. And you guys know it, and he knows it. That's why he did it. What's my guarantee that he is going to be hauling all produce from Salinas? There is none.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comments.
I'd like an answer to my question.
Well, sir, we have a few more speakers to listen to, and then we'll comment on this item, and we're allowed 2 minutes per individual. So I do appreciate your comments. We're going to Move on to our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Christine Plasterer. If you could please dial *6 on your phone.
Hello, Christine, please. Hi, Christine. State your name for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, I would have to agree with Mr. Brancato. I think that more so, I'm going to be closer because in reading the paperwork for the proposal, we are 150 feet north of this project. Now, I've lived here not as long as the Brancatos, but I've lived here since 1994. So I've been here 26 years. One of the reasons that we purchased this property was because it was a quiet area and there was agriculture all around. Since the time I've been here, there have been several dairies that have sprouted up around me. Now, initially they made the promise, well, we have, some newer technology and you're not going to smell, the smell. And well, no one controls the wind. So I smell the smell of the dairy. With that said, the cows are quiet. It is dairy, and there's been no additional dust or any of that. In reading this proposal, I just went paragraph by paragraph, and it's just really disturbing and upsetting to me because, like Mr. Brancato stated, it seems, it's agricultural, but is it really? I have my 82-year-old mother that's even closer to me. She's going to be closest to the 150 feet, and she lives there. She's a widow. My father passed away 15 years ago, so I take care of her. And we're on this property. And in reading all of the proposals on here, it's quite disturbing. The noise. We already get the noise from the truckers that they're up Union. There's already several trucking companies. There's a driving school. And I hear the Jake brakes at all hours, and so thinking that there's going to be even more added to that is disturbing. If I could just go through some of these paragraphs here on the pages, it says that on page 5, it says that there's going to be a limit saying that there's one way in and one way out, right in and right out. So I don't know where they're going to be coming from to make a right turn, if they're going to be coming northbound on South Union and then making a left on Bear Mountain to turn right, or if they're going to be exiting on Houghton and then driving south and making a right on Bear Mountain. If that's the case, I really don't want to see a line of, trucks in front of my yard going into this facility. So that's the one thing. I already have to, go with the aerial spraying. And when they disc, the fields, and then there's the dust. So adding 14, a maximum of 14 trips a day or a maximum of 50 vehicles, I mean, it's so upsetting to me because it's going to be unsightly. Where I stand right now in my house, I look to the south and to the east and to the west, and there's nothing there to block the view. It's all agriculture. They have planted alfalfa. There's been corn, there's all kinds of stuff. I see the intersection from my house. So now you're telling me if this gets approved, what I'm going to see is a huge 12,000, square foot building, and then they're going to build a 6-foot block wall on 3 sides of it, and that's what I'm going to have to look at. So then they're going to put a wrought iron fence in front of it for the aesthetic. I'm sorry, that's. I don't want to look at somebody's block wall. My husband, he works a graveyard shift, and so he sleeps during the day. And I don't, a 6-foot block wall, I'm sorry, it's not going to block out the noise. So we're going to have increased noise from the heavy machinery and equipment. So we're going to be listening to that. And then the diesel as well, the emissions from these diesel trucks, already when they spray, you got to come inside because they're spraying, and the air quality is already compromised when the dairies came. So now you're telling me there's going to be, diesel smell in the air. So that's not a good thing as well.
Okay.
The hours of operation, it says on here 7 to 6, and they're contesting that. So they're saying that they can't keep to those hours because, you know, they have to come and go when the produce is available and this and that. So I'm sure you all know how loud trucks are, and especially when they use, you know, their brakes and this and that, even though the solicitant has said these are newer trucks, but there's noise. I mean, you know,
Ma'am,
I could go.
I'm sorry to, yeah, I appreciate your comment, and these items were also addressed by previous comment, but we have to also allow other comments to come through, so I do appreciate your time. And if we will come back if there's more items to address there, so we do appreciate your comments. Madam Clerk, is there anybody else that'd like to comment on this project tonight?
Chairman Judge, that was the last member of public that has requested to comment.
Okay, thank you. I will keep the applicant available if is needed. Prior
Chairman
to,
Josh, I'm sorry, Mr. Murphy would like to address a couple.
yeah, prior to us making any more comments from a commission, I will turn to Mr. Murphy to address some of these comments that were made, Mr. Murphy, tonight, then we will turn to our commission.
All right, thank you again, Chairman Judge, members of the commission. If there's a couple things I want to address. If staff could put up the zone map, please. So again, this is a situation where we're looking to see what is or is not compatible with the existing uses. So the first thing I just want to point out is that the property is zoned A. I do believe that, you know, ag trucking facilities are agricultural uses. And in general, we do want them in agricultural areas. While I do understand that there are 2 residences, one to the west of this project site and one directly north, it is important to realize is that those properties are built on agricultural land. So it's not as if they were built on residentially zoned land where agricultural operations are not to be expected to occur in and around that site. I would also note that directly south, across from Bear Mountain Boulevard, it's designated CHPD. So that is a commercial highway designation. So at some point in the future, that entire property to the south could be designated as a commercial site, as that is what the intended use is. Now, with that being said, the item before your commission is a conditional use permit. So while fundamentally this ag trucking facility is an authorized use, the question is it compatible with the existing uses that are already there? So first, I'd like to touch base on the traffic comments. So as Ms. Simon had indicated before, this project was originally brought before your commission, and then we actually referred it back. The reason for that referral back is because Caltrans expressed some concern regarding the potential number of trucks, and they needed a better understanding how the facility would operate. So we recommended your commission, and your commission referred the project back. After that time, some additional information was provided to Caltrans. Caltrans reviewed the project and did not believe that any specific impacts would be associated with from a traffic perspective, provided they were able to provide the dedication along Bear Mountain Boulevard, provided that there was only going to be the one in and out, right turn in, right turn out. Caltrans and the number of trucks that were anticipated, Caltrans did not believe that there would be a significant traffic impact associated with this project. Now, regarding the number of trucks in the anticipated number of daily trips, because this is a facility where some of these trailers would stay, that is why they're proposing a number of 50 trailers to be on site. However, they're not anticipating having any more than approximately 12 to 14 trips at any one time, as the other trailers would remain on site. So from a staff perspective, as we evaluated this particular request, it's very difficult to put a condition that specifically said you only get 12 trips or you only get 14, because we don't have anybody on site to ever monitor that. That's why we recommended that the facility be limited to a total of 50 trips or 50 trucks on any site at one particular time. So that is an attempt we tried to do to address those concerns. Your commission does have the authority. If you believe 50 trucks on the site at one time is too many, you have the ability to restrict that to a lesser number in the conditions. But that was what staff believed was the most appropriate way to address the ongoing use of the site. Again, even though our 2 neighbors are in ag zone properties, because they are existing homes that are on site, and we have an applicant now that is proposing this proposed use, we 100% believe that the block wall should be required. That is based on if we have an industrial project or we have a commercial project, we require a 6-foot masonry wall to separate any residentially zoned properties. So while those other properties are zoned agricultural, because they're existing houses, staff felt that it was important to put this 6-foot masonry block wall to help provide some of that buffer between the site and those houses. Again, that is the same condition we would have if it was a commercial facility next to residentially zoned projects as well. Regarding the noise, I do concur that I can't guarantee that there would not be any noise that any of our two neighbors would be able to hear associated with this project. That is why staff believes and is recommending that the hours of operation, which include not only the maintenance facilities, but when the trucks can access the site, be limited to those that we've identified in our conditions. Again, we did not believe that it was appropriate that at 3 a.m, a truck come in, just given the fact that those houses are located right next door. So that is why staff recommended that the hours be limited to those that were provided in the operational statement. And while I understand that the applicant really meant those hours to be specifically related to the truck facilities and the repair facilities, given the fact that we have those existing properties, staff believed it was appropriate to continue those conditions to apply to just accessing the site as it is. So with all that being said, staff tried to identify the conditions in a manner that were both compatible with the adjacent uses, but that also could meet some of the needs from the proposed applicant. Again, as your commission is very aware, these agricultural trucking facilities, there's a give and take with where they're located. We have a number of them that are located next to homes that have expressed concerns. We really try to make sure that any proposed ag trucking facilities are in property that is zoned A. You could process a conditional use permit to have those in an E-zone property as well, or adjacent to E-zone property. We discourage that when we have people that submit applications to us. We do believe that they are most appropriately zoned in areas that are designated A or industrial. However, we do have to consider the surrounding uses as well. And staff attempted to craft specific conditions in such a manner to try to make this site compatible with the existing uses that are on site. Again, with all that being said, when you look at the aerial in and of itself, and you look at the zoning, whether this project does or does not get approved, it is clear that for sure everything south of Bear Mountain Boulevard potentially could be designated as a commercial area at some point in the future. And again, that's what makes this particular site unique, in that it is a little bit of a transition. It's not fully in an agricultural area, but it's also not fully in a residential area as well. So again, the conditions that we crafted tried to address the concerns to the extent that they could be addressed based on the proposal that we have.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Murphy.
then again, we'd be happy to answer any other questions, but we just wanted to give you that background before your commission went through your deliberation process.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I do have a question for you, and to hopefully help clarify some of the comments that were brought up by the fellow residents. So with the current use being a zone, that does allow for trucks to come in as tractors as well to farm and to cultivate the property. There is no current limitations on an ag property of how many trucks that come on and off during use. Is that my correct understanding with this current use zone right now?
Chairman Sprague, they can be limited based on your conditions. So if you wanted to provide specific conditions that limited that, they can be. The question that we always look with when we evaluate these projects as well is how enforceable are these conditions? So if we put a condition that said, you get 10 trucks, specifically 10 trucks per day, sometimes that becomes difficult to enforce. So what we tried to do is, we do believe the applicant. They anticipated in their study, and they looked at how many trucks they anticipate to have visit the site on any particular day, and it was between 10 and 14. But again, they were wanting to have potentially 50 trucks on site at any one time, just because someone could be dropping a truck off to have some work done onto it. The truck could be dropped off and it could be sitting there for a couple days, which clearly then wouldn't count towards your daily truck trip if it sits on site for a couple days. But again, trying to manage exactly how many trips come in per day, it's a difficult item to enforce. So, if you believe that is important, you can absolutely include that as a condition. Sometimes the enforceability of that becomes difficult though. So again, staff chose the easiest way we believed it was to enforce the overall site is to limit the total number of trailers that could be on the site at any one particular time. And so at this time, the applicant has requested 50 trailers be on site at any one time. And so that is what the condition specifies at this moment.
Mr. Murphy, I appreciate the clarification, but the question I was posing is, in its current zoning condition in ag use, they are allowed to have any amount of number of trucks coming on and off the property in ag use. There is no limitation on current ag use of how many trucks are coming on off the property. Is that my understanding?
Chairman Judge, I guess I don't necessarily understand your question. I mean, from an ag trucking facility, no, we do not, unless there is a condition that limits the hours of when they can come on site. No, I do not have anything specifically that says someone couldn't access the property at that particular time. But again, this is a specific conditional use permit request. So, you have the ability to limit those hours.
I was just trying to clarify that from my knowledge of ag use and conditional use, that if this individual had 10, 12 trucks coming off his property currently, if he was farming or cultivating his property, that is completely allowed on his current zone. And that I was trying to understand the fact that allowing a 14 trucks does not seem outreached from what the current use can be, and the fact of ag and the use of this CUP seem to be cohesive to its current use as it already is. So that's why I was asking.
All right, yeah, I guess to respond to that is, if he was farming it, you don't necessarily need the trucks to come on site for the farming. Those usually happen during the daylight hours. You harvest the crop, and you're right. If it takes 10 trucks, 15 trucks, 20, whatever it is as you harvest, there is no specific limit that says during harvest season you can only have so many trucks or anything along those lines. But those are typically done during the daylight hours. I'm not sure of much farming activity that occurs during the evening hours or at night.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, the clarification I was looking for, so thank you for that.
And Mr. Murphy, I could also just make clear that all of the trailers on site could be loaded with produce, and the refrigeration could be going for days at a time, waiting for the delivery schedule to be as such.
Okay, thank you. Prior to any other comments, I would turn to my fellow commissioners. Any questions or comments for staff or for the applicant at this time? Seeing none? Okay, but I did have a few more comments I want to address as well. I do appreciate the comments that came from the fellow community.
Excuse me.
I apologize. Who is this? Jumping in on the call?
Mr. Brancato, can I make a comment?
Not yet, sir. We will reach back out to you for comments being made. We already had our public comment, so thank you for that.
Okay. You asked.
That was directed towards our fellow commissioners here sitting up here on the item here. But what I wanted to ask the staff as well too is regarding the pervious area that the applicant mentioned. The concern with dust is always a concern, and the existing ag use allows dust to be pushed up. I believe with allowing some sort of pavement on that property, that will mitigate the dust concern that was brought up by some of the comments tonight. Now, the asphalt that is recommended over the granite flooring, can you staff recommend why that comment was made and what your reasoning behind that was?
Chairman Judge, sure, I'd be happy to. So again, this is a conditional use permit, so we looked at it in the context of all the surrounding uses. So yes, at times, there have been agricultural facilities that have trucking facilities that have either crushed granite. Some of them have been dirt that have been approved in the past. What we did is we looked at this particular situation, and because it was next to those residential properties, we utilized the development standard that is required for any commercial or industrial use. Again, the applicant is proposing to have 50 trucks on site. So when we looked at the total number of trailers that could be on site at any one particular time that would be coming in and out, when we looked at where this property is located, we do not believe this property, again, it's in a transition area. While it's zoned ag, it is not zoned ag and in an area where there are 0 houses that are next to it. You know, if this was out in an area where there were no houses around it, staff may be recommending the use of decomposed granite. If they had less trucks, staff may be recommending the use of decomposed granite. But when we look at this particular site, we look at that it's zoned commercial across the street, which would all be required to go through a paving. When we looked at, we have properties to the north and to the west that are residentially zoned. Given the fact that we have had concerns raised on other agricultural facilities when they're near homes regarding dust and noise, staff felt that it was just most appropriate to include a condition that required this site to be paved. So we use the existing standard that would be included on any commercial or industrial project for a paving requirement. So it came straight from our development standards.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then my next question I had, and I'll move over to Commissioner Sprague after that, was hour of operations. I'm very familiar with Bear Mountain Boulevard and the traffic that goes on Bear Mountain. Bear Mountain is a heavy traveled road that from 99 to Arvin. Also, we have a Grimway out there, so you do have a lot of trucks that use Bear Mountain, and that is its actually mostly its primary use of traffic that does come through there. And I do understand some of the comments were made earlier and the concerns of additional traffic. Unfortunately, the idea of large semi-trucks on Bear Mountain minimizing, I think, is not going to actually happen. It actually will always keep increasing just due to the fact of the nature of the surrounding community out there and the development that's going on, like I said, between Arvin to Hone and those areas of that nature. But with that as well, trucks do start early in the day. Obviously, a lot of loads have to, farming starts early, loads start early, and they try getting out on the road early. My thought would be is this type of facility is not similar to a retail facility that opens, 7, 8 in the morning. So I am in the thought that allowing a little bit earlier of access to the property because of the type of use it currently is should be considered, maybe from a 6 a.m. to maybe an 8 p.m. time frame. And I'd open that up to any of my fellow commissioners to get their thoughts on that as well. I'll turn to Commissioner Sprague.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question for staff, and then I'll save my other comments for commissioner comment section. Mr. Murphy, could we require, there's no secondary access in there, and I know it's usually reserved for residential areas, but you've got 50 trailers plus the cabs plus the maintenance building that are there, and I'm concerned about fire department access there when you only have one access with the size of gate that they've got there that could be obstructed with fences or with other trucks in and out of there, or possibly parking close to it. Is there, could we make a requirement that when they put in the block wall, that they put in a crash gate on a portion down the road from that allows the fire department access other than the ingress and egress access that we're promoting here for this particular site? Cut that into the brick wall so that the fire department's got access. Can we require that with this?
Well, Commissioner Sprague through the chair, and again, if I could have staff put up the site plan. So Caltrans indicated that they only wanted the one point of access. Now, again, I know you're not talking about a specific access, you're asking about a secondary emergency access. I guess my answer to that would be, you really can't put it on the east because there's another property in front of that. So if Ms. Eichenhorst can point out to the property on the east, there's an existing property between it and the roadway. You can't put it to the north really because there is no way to have a fire truck or anything. And then to the west is really not an option either. You have an existing home and some of those other structures. So I guess if you believe that you wanted to have a crash gate located on the south side on Bear Mountain Boulevard, you could potentially put a condition there where it was a crash gate. But I know Caltrans specifically only wanted one entrance, given where this project is located, the highway, and based on the site plan, and we're looking at where the trucks are parked, I don't believe that there would ever be an opportunity where that would be blocked. But again, if a truck broke down or something along those lines, that's another question. But I do know that the single access point came as a result of Caltrans' comments specifically indicating that they believed only one access should be there.
Okay, well, again, I'm concerned with the residential adjacent and their safety. And if you have trucks that possibly catch on fire in the middle of the night and you only got one access and there's some obstruction on ingress and egress gate, there should be some way that the fire department can access in there to put those fires out, especially along the freeway area. So I'm concerned about that and other things, and I'll talk about it later. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Sprague. Any of my other fellow commissioners that are on the line tonight, any comments like that? I apologize. This is not here. I did not a chance to request your comment.
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So with that being said, I think it'd be important for us to maybe have some comments between ourselves on what we might address here. I see that the applicant had a couple of comments that they were concerned with, again, hours of operation, the block wall. And reviewing this, I'd like to make my comment on the fact that I think that staff, number one, did a good job on reviewing this project and commenting on the items that were listed. And I know that there's always concerns of heavy traffic and dust and mitigation, things that happen when a project like this comes up. And I think staff did a good job trying to mitigate those items. I think that the idea of a block wall coming around the property is something that has become a very standard condition that has been put up, as Mr. Murphy mentioned earlier with staff. And I would say that if the idea of noise on Bear Mountain Boulevard, again, unfortunately, as I commented earlier, Bear Mountain Boulevard carries a lot of heavy traffic currently, and as Mr. Murphy pointed out, the property just adjacent to this is a commercial zone property, which will allow even more traffic and commercial additions to the property. So I think that the only option to mitigate that would be able to have a block wall around the property. I think we should discuss the hours of operation because that is something that the applicant seemed that they had a concern with, and I think that if we are to make a motion tonight on this project, we should have a discussion on those items. So with that being said, I would like to have the applicant, do we have the applicant on the line? Mr. Jim, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. I have a question for you. Staff has put some comments in here on hours of operation. And you did make a comment earlier addressing that loads are picked up different times of the day throughout. I think if you could help us understand the main purpose of having something past the hours of operation that is suggested here and what those might be, it'd be good for us to understand that from your part.
Well, again, these 14 maximum trips per day basically would be trucks that are either leaving the facility or arriving at the facility, having made a delivery to out of state or up north to the Salinas area. If they were to pick something up there late in the afternoon, by the time they got back down to Bakersfield and got to the facility, it would be after those hours. And by the same token, if they were going to go up there and pick up something, they would have to leave earlier in the morning in order to get up there before when the facility that they were going to was open. And so the fact is that we've got 14 trucks per day is not considered to be very many according to the Caltrans review of the project. And so I think that the main concern of my client, who's here with me, is the fact that if he is not able to have the trucks come and go on the property at any hour, depending upon the scheduling and the harvesting and so forth, then this project is infeasible. The other comments with regard to the paving and so forth, those are economic situations. But in order to even have a project, we have to have the ability to operate it whenever the trucks need to be coming and going. Mr. Sprague's comment about the crash in the mall, essentially, there's no block wall on the frontage on Bear Mountain. The county staff, my client wanted to put a block wall along there, but the county staff indicated they wanted to see that to be a wrought iron fence. There could be a crash iron fence to be used for emergency purposes only down towards the easterly side. I'd like to also point out that the resident that lives to the west is over 600 feet away from the west boundary that is being required by the county. And in fact, his house is probably closer to Highway 99 than it is to this project. If anybody has any additional questions, I'm here to answer.
Okay, thank you. And I would have to say that the way I review this as well too is, as I believe that the idea of the CUP does make sense in this area, and it does accommodate the existing land use. So I'm not against the idea of the project coming in, and I am also not the thought process that ag trucks do need to be able to travel and access property, load and unload at an earlier time frame. The 14 trucks that are coming to this facility, I don't think would be adding additional traffic and or at an earlier time that Bear Mountain is already seeing these type of trucks coming through. Bear Mountain has large trucks coming through as early as all throughout the night, all throughout the day. I don't think this one single project is going to, if they're coming in at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. is going to create a much larger load of traffic that is not already existing on Bear Mountain. Like I said, I'm very familiar with this Bear Mountain thoroughfare between here and 99. Traffic 99 is 24 hours a day, and trucks travel on 99 all day long, all night long. If this project needs to proceed, I think our idea of having CUP is to make the project feasible for the applicant to at least be functional. So I would be open to opening up the hours of operation to an earlier time frame to allow them to access the site. I'll turn to my fellow commissioners. Have any comments on timelines and your comments in your field of that as well?
Mr. Chairman, may I add something? In our negotiations with Caltrans, they've discussed the future of construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Union Avenue and Bear Mountain, which would facilitate a lot of the traffic issues that seem to cause some of the backups and so forth. But I thought I'd throw that out just for informational purposes.
Thank you for that clarification. And to that comment, Caltrans is also adding a roundabout on further down Bear Mountain, and that's kind of the new pathway on their path of travels. So this setback has been set in to allow for future growth of this inlet to its capacity.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a couple of comments if you don't mind.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So I agree with staff. Thank you for working through this project with the applicant. It's a unique area because it is a transitional area, and so I'd start with saying, as Mr. Murphy did, we always look at zoning first and compatibility, and this is obviously, it's zoned ag. I work on a lot of property that's zoned ag, and there are other uses that have been deemed in the past compatible with those particular zoning. So it is consistent with the zoning. I acknowledge it's a transitional area, and there's some homes interspersed in there, so we're gonna have to come up with something that makes sense to everyone who's gonna operate in this area. I think that, as Commissioner Josh said, noise is not an unfamiliar thing there. That's gonna continue as well. You've got expansion of real estate uses coming out of town in every single direction, and so with a heavy highway commercial zoned property to the south of Bear Mountain, we know what's going to happen there at some point, so it's going to get a lot noisier. That being said, this project is going to create some noise, and we're going to need to mitigate for that as well. I think the block wall is consistent with what we do in other areas, so that makes perfect sense to me. And the dust piece, I agree with Commissioner Sprague, and that is, there'll be dust there, and it will, ag in general, generally dust blowing is kind of unmitigated across the board, and so that dust is a problem. But here again, we're looking at this particular project and what impacts it's going to have, and so it will have some dust. So the applicant is going to, we're going to have to figure out a way to work this into this spot. Hours, I'm open to. I don't know what the magic number is. I think also we're going to probably need to, I'm sensitive to those uses, but again, my industry, we have equipment coming and going all the time, and sometimes the guys have to stage somewhere else in order to be able to deliver within the hours that we have. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about your ideal hours of operation, but I think an unlimited hours of operations probably going to create some conflicts here.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make a comment. I think it's going to be impossible to police 14 trucks a day in and out of this place, especially if this guy's brokering trucks with other companies from other states coming in and out empty and leaving full. The county doesn't have the workforce to imply policing on 14 trucks in and out of there. So there's going to be nobody watching the hen house here. And I think that's going to pose a problem down the road, especially for the residential people there. I think it complicates the traffic that's there. The noise is going to be implied to the residential people that are already existing there. So you're complicating their lifestyle the way they have it now. And I think with decomposed granite, you still get dust. So there has to be some type of binder material, I think, placed over the decomposed granite to control the dust created from the trucks going in and out of there and around there and into the maintenance building and out. So that needs to be tackled. Also, if there's more than 14 trucks going in and out of there, even with 14 trucks there, the diesel emissions that are there, along with the noise from the refrigeration units on the produce in the trucks, are posing imposition on the residential neighbors that are adjacent to this piece of property. So, I mean, I like the project, but I wish it were in an area that didn't have residential so close to it, and it didn't have complicated truck traffic from the truck stop that's there and off the highway back and forth. I mean, I know Bear Mountain Boulevard is very, very busy, and it's got a lot of agricultural trucks on it besides the semi-trucks going in and out of it. And it's difficult to make right and left-hand turns. And unless you put an island on Bear Mountain Boulevard, which I don't see happening, so that they can't turn left into the gate, they're going to find a way to just pull up there and cross Bear Mountain and go in there, complicating the traffic from the other direction. So, I mean, there's a lot of holes in this project that need to be plugged, so to speak, or overcome. And I'd actually like to see this thing revised and come back to it and have them meet with the other adjacent residential people there to try to come up with some kind of solutions here before we actually make a vote on this particular project tonight.
Commissioner Sprague, I appreciate your comments, and I'd like to maybe comment on what you just mentioned, and very, very good comments, and I think those are things that we should always be mindful of and think about. And to comment on the accessibility of the access, I think from doing development with Caltrans, these type of natures of, in the past, Caltrans, especially on main arterials like Bear Mountain or Highway 43 or, you know, other highways throughout the territory, they're mitigating full access as far as right in, right out, left in, left out, because for traffic purposes. And that's something, unfortunately, us as a county don't have guidelines or jurisdiction over to recommend putting a median in or putting something to block that type of accessibility, but that is, it is a Caltrans highway. And it, as you can, from what I'm looking at, is the setback requirement that they've given on the property is designed because Caltrans is, in the future, when they do develop this to its ultimate, will either come in with opportunities like a stoplight or a roundabout. And just from my purview of speaking to Caltrans, the roundabout has been suggested, not approved, but suggested to come out here. And with the roundabout, they will only allow one right in, right out, because they will put a median in through Bear Mountain at that time, which will not allow any type of left traffic in. But again, that's something that could be in the future, but we as a county don't have jurisdiction to mitigate that. I do believe this has been continued before, and I do commend staff for doing a great job on really trying to mitigate the concerns of the neighbors. And I know we have 2 residential neighbors here, and we want to be mindful of their concerns. The thing I would think, though, is I can't see much modification that could be happened to the access because we have no control over that. We have suggested for a block wall to come in, which is normally the maximum that we do on a property to mitigate noise and or separation from residential. As staff pointed out, I think we have one residential property which is less than a few hundred feet. The other one is a little over 600 feet, which is also closer to the highway. I think I would like to see ourselves kind of work through if there are concerns, and maybe put a vote on this today, because this project has been continued once already. And I would like to see if we can move forward with this, because I don't see, besides hours of operation, the concern that the staff haven't addressed major concerns already regarding the residential here. What I'd ask is, to my fellow commissioners as well, is on the hours of operation point. I think that if we could come to some sort of understanding on that, and I think we, again, have no control over accessibility, because that's Caltrans controlled. Besides the pervious area, I think that's the only issues I see that have not been completed yet. And I'll take other commissioner comments to that as well.
I got another question for staff, if you would entertain that, and that is, so we have a noise element in the general plan that's 65 dB, if I'm not mistaken. So this operation is required to comply with that noise element. Is that correct?
It is, however, it probably will exceed that,
Okay.
if we're being quite honest.
Okay. I agree with Commissioner Josh that we should try to work through this. I think block walls, in my mind, the block walls are given. That's going to have to happen. I think the dust piece, I'm not necessarily saying that it has to be paved. There are dust palliatives that work quite well. The dust, that's an enforceable thing through a complaint process, right? I mean, you can basically say, hey, there's dust coming off the site, you guys would send somebody out, and if it was, that would be in violation of their permit. Again, the hours, I think, need to be adjusted to make this project work for me.
Yeah, I would, again, and our fellow commissioners that are not here, if there are anything that you'd like to comment, please just jump in, because I know we are having this conversation, and if there's something you want to comment, just please unmute yourself, as far as our other fellow commissioners that are calling in from home.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Greg McGiffney.
Commissioner Giffney, go ahead.
I think I agree with Joe and you, Commissioner Judd.
I think the hours there and the location, and I'm also concerned about the turn-ins as well. I don't know how that would impact the situation, the traffic there. But I tend to agree with what you gentlemen have said, as well as everyone else had the other concerns of the traffic from the public comments.
Thank you, Commissioner McGinty. I would like to ask the applicant one more, to come back on the line for us. It seems the hour of operations is something that our fellow commissioners have all discussed, and we seem to be willing to maybe look at an opportunity to modify those. But I do feel that the idea of having this unlimited hours is not something that would be purview of to accommodate the condition with the residential and the use of this. So if we did have to work on some hours, we would, obviously, this is your business and your facility, and I'd like to get some suggestion on what hours you feel you could accommodate in, and give us some starting point where we might could discuss.
Hold on just a moment, I want to confer with my client.
Okay, feel free, and we'll give you a minute.
Meanwhile, while they're talking, if it's okay, what do you guys think about dust palliative? I mean, something other than pavement?
Yeah, I'll return to staff on that. Mr. Murphy, what, besides going to complete asphalt, what other options have we used in the past to mitigate dust, some sort of a sealant and or recycled granite, things of that nature? Can you comment on that?
Chairman, Judge, we've used decomposed granite. We've used a dust palliative for the dust. The concern with the dust palliative is I don't think it's as effective as decomposed granite. If you're going to go with something other than pavement, I would use decomposed granite. Now, the downside of decomposed granite is, one, it's very difficult to mark the truck parking spaces. So if you're concerned about having trucks park where they're supposed to park, next to the road or next to wherever, and you don't want them in areas they're not supposed to park, not having the ability that has a pavement and a way to paint and mark the roadways becomes more problematic, or it becomes a little bit more of a problem. Again, if you want to do something other than pavement, I guess my recommendation would be decomposed granite. However, again, if you're just asking me, I believe that it should absolutely be paved, but that is partly just to address all of it, and then especially to make sure that we know that the cars are parking in the areas on the site plan where they're supposed to park, to ensure that access to and from the site is done as appropriately. But again, decomposed granite would be the alternative that you could use.
Okay, appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, we're back. My client has indicated that he would like to have the operations be, the facility would be closed from midnight to 4 a.m. in the morning and be open the rest of the time, so that they could leave at 4 a.m. and arrive at midnight. And
Okay.
I see Mr. Sprague is not there, but I wanted to also point out that he was talking about other trucks from other facilities. These trucks are wholly owned and operated by the applicant. There's no other people involved.
So is that where the number 14 comes from? The current applicant has 14 vehicle trucks, is my understanding?
But no, that's how many he would be operating per day. He would possibly have additional vehicles, but those that are not being used would be parked.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I see Mr. Sprague is back. Did he hear me?
Yeah, we got the comment through. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
And regarding the dust comment and the decomposed granite versus asphalt, again, the current property is ag, and it's dirt, which is currently has nothing to mitigate the amount of dust that's kicked up when trucks do coming off that property. So I think any type of decomposed granite or anything that we put down above the current dusting situation will definitely improve the situation than it currently already is in, and mitigate that type of dust, because we're putting impervious area on top of that. And so my overall thought process is that the idea of deep coast granite could work. Now, I would turn to staff. One more question for you is, if during sometime in the future, if this project, if this decomposed granite starts decaying and or there starts creating a large dust problem, is there something that could be put in the conditions to say that if it's not being maintained, it would have to switch over to asphalt?
Chairman, Judge, through, yes and no. That would be a little bit difficult to do because a lot of that is subjective. Is the dust occurring at this particular hour when staff's out there? Again, now you're really getting into a very difficult type of project to manage and monitor. Okay. Again, the fundamental question is the project compatible with the surrounding uses, yes or no? And can we create the conditions that make sense? So again, we might be able to come up with something. But again, the trigger that says, yes, this is a problem, no, it's not a problem, will become one that's very subjective.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's what I wanted to get put on the record. Thank you.
I have one more question too, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Josh.
please go, Commissioner.
From a zoning perspective, how important is the parking piece that you mentioned, Mr. Murphy, in terms of saying, making sure that vehicles park where they're supposed to? Is that more a byproduct of that's what the applicant said and where they were going to park, or is that something that we actually require by the ordinance with having the building there, having a certain number of vehicles? Is that something that we have, I guess, jurisdiction over, is the way I'm trying to say it?
Right.
Or the requirements?
Right. Commissioner Ashley, thank you for the question. So remember, this is a CUP. So the CUP outlines the entire site. So yes, as part of the facility, we need to there needs to be ADA parking. There needs to be regular parking for the employees. Now the question comes, again, when it comes to the compatibility issue, technically speaking, let's just say that this was a concern. You could actually have a condition that says none of the trucks are allowed to park on the north end of the facility because that's directly touching the where the residential home is. So technically the whole facility, you could have it reworked. Now again, would the applicant be able to get 50 trucks in if you had that requirement? Probably not. But again, we were looking for a site plan. If it was a facility that was not located near adjacent houses, I would be much more comfortable saying, well, having the exact parking location isn't as important. That was identified on our end just because of the unique characteristics of this particular site. We were trying to make it very clear that this is where people could or could not park so that it didn't create other types of concerns. But again, ultimately, it's your commission has the jurisdiction it is a CUP, so these development standards can be modified based on what you believe is appropriate for this particular site. But I just wanted to let you know that the thinking why was for those reasons as well.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Murphy.
the clarification there, Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask?
Yes, give me 1 second, sir. Just prior to jumping onto that, Mr. Jim, I would ask my fellow commissioners is on the hours of operation, the applicant requested, if it was missed, they requested if they could do 4 a.m. to 12 a.m., allowing them to use the site for their in and out. I am comfortable with the 4 a.m. again, because with the existing use that's out there and the existing traffic that does come out there for agricultural use. I think that does fall within the common traffic that is already on Bear Mountain. I would like to say that if we could see if any support for allowing them to have from that 4 a.m. to 12 a.m. traffic timeline on to modify the current times. I'll take any thought process on that from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Ashley?
I get the 4 a.m. piece. Midnight's late to deliver. I know, again, business I'm in, we're required to operate within certain hours of the day. So that's a scheduling thing. I think the scheduling thing becomes a little different when you own all the trucks, as the applicant says he does. So you're not coordinating with another company or something like that. So 10 o'clock, 10 to 4, it seems a little more reasonable to me, probably.
Saying 10 PM to 4 AM, or?
No, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m.
4 to 10, correct, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
And what are you saying cannot happen or can happen?
Opened for operations during those hours.
So,
May I just interject real quick? Also, that would be the days of the week if you wanted to limit them Monday through Friday on the weekends.
No.
I'm sorry, so.
Please hold your comments, Jim.
Yeah, Jim, thank you. We will call on you once we're ready to have some comments, Jim, thank you. I do see that, I am comfortable with the 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. I believe that, again, for operationals, Monday through Saturday makes sense to me. I'm not sure why the close on Sunday was added. Can I have staff to maybe comment on that?
Again, the applicant had indicated after the staff report was distributed that that was for the hours of the maintenance shop only, not for the trucks moving in and off the site. So the maintenance shop would be closed on Sunday.
Okay, so that's a clarification. The maintenance shop will be closed on Sunday.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what they intended, yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So with that being said, I will turn back to the applicant. So if any of the commission have a comment to make on that, on the timeline, commissioners are not here tonight. We are discussing a 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. Would anyone like to make any comments prior to me asking the applicant about this time delay?
Okay.
This is Commissioner Skidmore. I'm okay with an open operating hours, so whatever you all are looking at, I'm supportive of.
Thank you, Commissioner Skidmore. I'm also going to turn to Commissioner McGiffney. Are you, any questions on the operating hours that we have, we're discussing? I'd like to have your comment, if any.
Yes, I've been thinking about that. I mean, the curfew between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. sounds more reasonable. You know, I'm still concerned about there is existing residences there, that's clear. I know the zoning being what it is, but there are some precedents there for what's already existing. We're trying to thread the needle here, it looks like, in that area from residences as well. And the truck traffic does seem to be greatly increased right in the area where people are living, and it does seem a little bit unfair that they have to deal with that after X amount of time, zoning notwithstanding. So the hours, I would think, should be, I thought originally we were talking a lot more restrictive, which would make a little more sense from the resident standpoint, but I understand the needs of the trucking, and that brought that out. So, I can't see going much more than, than that curfew that I think that the commissioners already proposed.
Okay, and I thank you for that, Commissioner Giffey, and I think based upon that, I think he was referring to the 10 p.m. because even noise guidelines are 10 p.m. as well, so they kind of fight in guidelines with that as well as far as after hours noise, pollution, things of that nature. So I think that does make sense. I see 3 or 4 commissioners have made those comments. I will then turn back to the applicant saying if we put a restriction on the timelines from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. On this facility, that is kind of what's being proposed. Is that something that you guys feel you could work with? Because if we'd like to make a motion on this, I think that is going to possibly be the maximum that could be allowed out there. So any comments from yourself on that, Jim?
Yeah, hold on just a moment. I'm going to mute my phone. The house.
I did not understand what he said there. I apologize, Jim.
I muted my phone so you wouldn't hear me.
Jim, the question is back to you, is that majority of the commissioners here said they're willing to modify the hours of operation, and
Right.
we have generally said that from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. The question is if we move forward and have a motion tonight, I think that might be one of the items that we would bring up. Now, if that's something that you feel that applicant makes sense to you, if not, we'd like to know that, but otherwise we need to just move forward on this project and make a decision.
My applicant wants to talk to you, so I'm gonna hand him the phone, okay?
Okay, so if another applicant coming up, please state your name for the record.
Tell him who you are.
My name is Ahmad Paul Dillon.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dillon.
Yes, sir. My question is, okay, let's say we put the, limit on the hours. My driver come 11 p.m. in a Bakersfield. So his car in the yard, parking, so he can left the truck and trailer on unsafe place. So if I tell him, okay, stay with the truck, I need to pay for him because waiting for 2 hours, 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. So if he can make to the yard, park it, he can go his house and rest it. So why I need to hold him, that many hours on the truck stop? So just paying him to just waiting to open the gate. Because the 22, 23, 24 hours. Highway 99, 24 hours. Union, 24 hours. So why we limited on my place?
Appreciate your comment there, and I think what the comment that staff made, and I could comment on that, is the staff is looking at the conditions that are provided by the surrounding community there with the residential homes, and trying to facilitate a CUP to allow the facility to operate with the surrounding condition. So our fellow commissioners here have also commented that they feel there should be some restrictions on that. And we're trying to do our best to accommodate that, but is the facilities operational within the traffic pattern out there is concerning to make sure it doesn't impede on other areas around you. So I think that's where that timeline came in at. So any other comment from you, Mr. Dillon?
Yes, sir. Those hostels are more close to the 99 and from more close to the off-ramp. But my project is far away, then they are more close to the 99 because the 99 open for everybody 24 hours. And the 223 open also for everybody. The truck running, if even I tell my driver, park the truck on the truck stop, but the truck is still traveling on the 99 and the truck is still driving on Union, other companies, then from other states, and they're still traveling on the Highway 223. Because that's open for public.
Mr. Dillon, thank you for your comments, and appreciate that. So with those comments, I think I'd turn to my fellow commissioners to see how we'd like to proceed on this. I am comfortable again with the modification of operation of hours. My initial comment was I was supportive of the 4 a.m. to midnight or 4 to 10. I think we need to make a motion on one way or another and decide on that. So I would ask if any of our fellow commissioners would like to make a motion on this.
Well, before you do that, I'd like a little more clarification since we've gone back and forth
Yes,
with
please.
the hours.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sprague.
Would you state what would be in the motion as far as operational hours and the hours they would be closed to traffic?
So what I'm going to do is we'll have the conditions reread, so let's clarify the conditions are currently, and then what is being put out. So staff, I'll turn to Simon. It looks like the conditions of hours we're discussing is modifications of the hours of Monday through Sunday, right? We're not discussing the closing of the facility on Sunday, correct?
But it would depend on if your commission would like to keep those hours for the maintenance shop only, and you could craft an additional condition regarding the hours of the trucks, although that is very difficult to enforce. Both of those entities on site. I would suggest one or the other. And Mr. Murphy can comment, of course.
Chairman,
Mr.
Judge,
Murphy? Yes.
members of the commission, so here's the options. Tonight, I probably can craft modifications to condition 6A and then modifications to condition 2E. I would separate it into two conditions, so I would have a 6A1. 6A1 would read, the maintenance repair shop operations will be open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, and closed on Sunday. That would be the only thing that says 6A1. Condition 6A2 would then read, access to the site for purposes of storing trailers shall be limited between the hours of 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., period. No access shall be authorized between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 a.m., period. And I would make that same condition to condition 2E, and we'd have a 2E1 and a 2E2. So basically what I would do is separate out the maintenance facility and make that separate from the access to drop off the trailers.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And just to clarify, but the way the current condition is currently read, there was no limitation on the hours of accessibility for the unit. It was specifically for the maintenance unit. Is that my understanding, Mr. Murphy?
No,
Can you please clarify?
staff believes we should, no, our condition specified that you should only access the site between the hours we've identified. So staff was recommending that if you were outside of these operational hours, you would not be able to access the site.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So you're looking at two items which will allow access to the facility from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then the facilities that for the use of the actual maintenance is based upon as is currently conditioned.
Correct.
Okay, so Commissioner Sprague, that is what the motion would be if is clear. Does that clarify your question that you had?
So truck access other than the maintenance building is going to be what hours?
Currently, what it suggests is 4 a.m. to 10 p.m.
For everything.
Okay.
Okay, so
we still haven't covered the parking lot coverage issue of staff is recommending paving. Mr. Murphy still thinks it should be paved, and decomposed granite. There's no way to stripe the parking spaces with decomposed granite or anything that lasts to show the trucks where to park, the drivers where to park the trucks and things. So I actually agree with staff that it should be paved. So I don't know what the applicant's comments would be to that or any alternatives that they would suggest, but I'd be open to hearing that.
Commissioner Sprague, through the chair, that makes sense to me as well, based on the description and the justification that Mr. Murphy told us earlier.
okay, so
Mr. Chairman?
just give me 1 second, please, sir.
Okay.
And prior to hearing back from the applicant on this and what the motion might be, I would talk to any other fellow commissioners. So currently, we were discussing keeping the asphalt as the staff has recommended and the hours of operation which staff has clarified. Commissioner McGiffney, is there any other comments from your end?
I'm not as
And
concerned
Skidmore.
about the pavement as I think the hours. This project is really infringing on the residents there.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skidmore, any comments from your side?
I just have a quick clarification question. When we're talking about the pavement, are we talking about the entire area? Or are we just talking about entrance into the facility and where the parking spaces would be for the truck to park?
Commissioner Skidmore, through the chair, it was for the entire area. It was anywhere where the trucks could maneuver on the site.
Is there a way for us to identify maybe a portion of the parcel or a portion of the area where there's more heavy traffic to pave, and then a portion that could be irrigated gravel.
Commissioner Skidmore, through the chair, I don't believe so, because the whole facility would allow parking all on it. So I guess we could do paving for any of the trucks and employee parking, and then decomposed granite for any of the parking for the trailers. But honestly, if you're gonna go that far, I think that you would just do decomposed granite on the whole thing, other than what would be, we're not allowed to do decomposed granite on handicap parking. But if that was your intent, my personal opinion is you go one way or the other. You either make them pave it, or you let them do decomposed granite.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skidmore. Thank you, Ms. Murphy. So with that, any more fellow comments on the deep closed granite versus the asphalt?
I would recommend paving.
Okay, so currently what we have is to allow the hours of operation, as staff has commented on, to be in two parts, and then to, it seems like, to keep the asphalt per staff recommendation and fellow commissioner recommendations. And if that is the case, I think prior to make, I would entertain a motion to do that, because I think those, I'll open that up to fellow commissioners on that.
I support those amendments to the conditions that we've talked about, hours of operation, paving of the site, and the block walls we discussed earlier. That was already part of it.
So staff would like to clarify, would that qualify as a motion for our fellow commissioner that's saying that as per the items you addressed for the hours of operation, along with the keeping conditions as is for the asphalt?
Yes, so we would be amending condition 2E to be in two parts, as Mr. Murphy read into the record, and condition 6A to also mirror condition 2E. So they would be exactly the same. One would be in regard to the maintenance shop operation hours, and then the other would be access to the site, the 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to ask you to ask McGiffey and Skidmore if they have any other comments regarding the project before a motion is made.
Yes, Commissioner, I appreciate that. And I'll ask one more time again, because since you're not here, Commissioner, is there any other comments you'd like to add prior to the motion?
No other comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
No other comments from me, sir.
Okay, so with that being said, I think we have a motion put out to modify the hours and keep all conditions as is.
Would you feel comfortable to have Ms. Simon read that motion as we're going to make it, so we're all clear what 2E and 6A?
I would actually prefer Mr. Murphy, as he crafted the conditions.
I want to hear you do it, though. I want to hear you do it.
That would be great.
So, Mr. Murphy, I think
Murphy,
there's been a lot of comment going back, so I think just help clarification, the motion to be read as, and if you clarify one more time the
Sure.
conditions.
So, well, let me ask, just for a procedural question, who's making the motion? Because once I read this, then I'm going to have someone ask the motion too. So if someone makes a motion and then asks me to modify it, I'd be happy to do that.
Commissioner Ashley has made the
I will
motion.
make the motion.
Okay, so with that being said, the recommendation and the motion would be, let me get to it would be to there we go, get to the page. Okay, approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions revised to conditions 2E and 6E, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. And the revised to the conditions would be to split up the condition so that it would read The maintenance repair shop facility will be open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, and closed Sunday, period. That would be condition 6A1. Condition 6A, sorry, it'd be 6A, well, yeah. Condition 6A2 would then say, access to the site for purposes of truck trailer storage shall be authorized from the hours of 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., period. No access shall be authorized from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m., period. And then we would have that same language mirror condition 2E, so we'd have a 2E1 and a 2E2.
Okay,
That
Thank you
is
for the
exactly my
clarification.
motion. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
entertain a second.
What about,
Okay,
I still have a question.
Okay, Commissioner
What
Sprague,
about the
so
what about the paving option?
The paving, I think,
is
Commissioner
as
Sprague was
is
already
per
in
staff,
there.
isn't it? We did not modify any paving. The staff did recommend asphalt, so that's staying in the as is.
So,
As is the block wall.
okay,
So the only modification was the time of hours.
okay.
Okay, so we had a motion, I would entertain a second. Ms. Gibbs, if not, I will put out the second.
This is trustee Skidmore, I'll second.
Yes.
Mr. Ashley? Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Judge?
Yes.
Mr. McGriffney?
Yes.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
All ayes.
Thank you for that. And with that, this is a conditional use permit. There is a notice of right to appeal for projects that were planning commission action is final. Action is subject to appeal to the board of supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any applicant may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. I'll turn to Mr. Murphy to read that in more detail.
Sure. Thank you again, Chairman Judge. Again, this action is final by your permission unless it is appealed. An appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms we have available at the department. This filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of this hearing. If no appeal is received, the action of the commission is final.
Thank you. Moving on to next item. This is case item number 3 and general plan amendment. I'll turn to Ms. Simon for that one, correct?
Actually, Mr. Murphy is going to take care of it.
Okay, you got me
We're
again.
playing,
Get a break, yeah.
musical chairs here.
Okay, Mr. Murphy, I will turn to you for item number 3.
All right, thank you again, Chairman Judge. So item number 3 is General Plan Amendment number 158, map 500. This is a proposed textual amendment to the Chapter 4 of the approved Kern County General Plan and the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan housing element covering the 2015 through the 2023 planning period. The specific request is to amend the vacant land inventory list, which is table 64 of the adopted housing element. The proposal would be to include existing vacant high-density residentially zoned parcels that were previously admitted due to a geographic information system mapping error. So the housing element itself is one of the 7 state mandatory elements that must be incorporated into a general plan. It includes the identification and analysis of existing and projected housing needs. It includes statement of goals, policies, and implementation programs necessary to implement our existing housing element. That housing element is updated every 8 years, comprehensively updated every 8 years, and it is subject to a mandatory review by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. The 2015-2023 housing element update was approved by the Kern County Board on April 26th of 2016. And then on June 3rd, 2016, the county received a letter from HCD indicating that the adopted housing element met all of the statutory requirements of the state housing law, conditioned on the fact that we implemented programs 2.2.2 and 2.2.3, which required the county to identify 214 acres of additional land that is suitable for development at higher density levels. So, again, what we're talking about is our existing vacant land inventory. And again, an important component of the housing element is the identification of sites for future housing that can meet this multifamily density requirement. So again, subject to our adoption in 2016, staff identified an additional 199.24 acres of R3 zone land that is already zoned high-density residential that was not included on our previous list of properties that were zoned high-density development, which is an attachment 2 of your staff report, is the list of these additional parcels. And again, the way that they were missed was, unfortunately, when we did the analysis, our shape files from a GIS perspective didn't overlap exactly the same. So what happened, because of this misalignment, although these properties were zoned R3, they were not identified as properties already zoned R3, and therefore were not included on the previous list. So again, using the same analysis we did in 2015, we accounted that 70% of the site could be developed potentially, which ultimately could result in 3,922 units of additional development. We are bringing this item before your commission specifically. We had already sent this list to HCD a number of years ago, but they recently contacted us and asked us that we actually take this textual amendment forward and formally amend our existing housing elements and amend that existing vacant inventory list to include these parcels. So the department recommendation is to advise your commission to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve the general plan amendment as requested and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. And I do know that we have a commenter that had indicated to us that they would like to comment on this particular project. So, I recommend your commission open the public hearing and take any comments on this item, and then I'd be happy to answer any other questions your commission has or respond to any of the comments raised during the public testimony.
Mr. Murphy, thank you for that, and I'll turn to our Madam Clerk. Do we have a person calling in to comment on this item? And if you could please ask them to state their name.
Chairman Judge, yes, we do. We have Emma De La Rosa on the line. If you could please dial *6 on your phone and state your name for the record, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms.
My name is Emma De La Rosa, and I'm a policy advocate with the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. The list of parcels in attachment 2 does not satisfy the requirements of state housing element law. On December 12, 2019 and September 14, 2020, just recently, Leadership Council and Public Interest Law Project sent correspondence to Kern County to highlight the requirements necessary to bring the housing element into compliance with the law and described what is required in order to comply with the state law. Unfortunately, the proposed amended inventory does not comply with the requirements of Government Code Section 65583.2, subsections B, C, or H. The county must revise the housing element to include an inventory that includes the required information, the required analysis, and evidence of developability. We request that the county make the necessary revisions in order to implement programs 2.2.2 and 2.2.3 and remedy the shortfall in the county's housing element as soon as possible. Despite the county's position that these sites existed all along, the site inventory must still comply with the law. It must include per site information on infrastructure capacity that's currently not listed on attachment 2, and also whether the site has available existing or planned water, sewer, and other dry utilities, type of income housing, and additional information pursuant to 65583.2, subsection B. Also, whether these sites existed along or not, they were not identified in the county's housing element inventory, and if these sites are to be included now, the site analysis required by section 65583.2, subsection C, must be included in the amended housing element. Lastly, the development of housing element revision requires efforts to engage public participation. This requirement also applies to housing element amendment, and the county should take steps to engage the public. We encourage the planning department to revisit the letters where it can locate each requirement necessary to be in compliance with the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Madam Chair, is there anyone else on that would like to comment on this project?
Chairman Judge, there's been nobody else registered to speak.
Okay, and so with that, I will close the general public presentation. I'll turn back to Mr. Murphy to address the comments that were made.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So there's two things that your commission should be aware of. Again, the action we're doing is just we're updating the inventory list. And we were doing that specifically at the direction of HCD. I do appreciate the comments from Ms. De La Rosa, although I guess the only comment that I would have is the state already signed off on this approach in terms of how we analyze these projects. On June 3rd, we received a letter that said, hey, your housing element, you have a complete housing element that is appropriate. It included the exact same analysis that these parcels went through when we created our existing inventory list. So the state has already indicated that that met that provision. You know, the housing element in general had other sections of the housing element where it talked about the availability of water for our disadvantaged communities that we've identified, sewer infrastructure. It specifically doesn't require that each site, one by one, have a detailed analysis, but rather it be discussed in a comprehensive manner, which the rest of the housing element already does, and the state has already signed off on that particular aspect of it. With all that being said, though, you know, we do work with the Leadership Council, and we are continuing to work with the Leadership Council on how we implement our housing element. I want to just take this opportunity to indicate that recently, because we have an existing housing element that was adopted, the county received $650,000 in SB2 grant funding to expand on the analysis that was already included in our housing element. So right now, the county is currently working on even a more focused refinement of all these particular zones. We're analyzing other areas that are not zoned residential that could potentially be zoned. We are going through and we are creating an online fee calculator that would help show a pathway for our housing partners that build these projects so that they can do a better job of understanding which land is the most viable for potential multifamily development. We're in the process of potentially expanding and bringing forward for consideration a modification to our existing zone classifications to allow a greater use of high density development. We may modify exactly how many acres you can get or how many units you can get on a particular acre to increase that, to allow more properties to be viable for this type of development. And again, we are going through that entire process through SB2 grant funding that we received. Additionally, as part of our update to the general plan, based on conversations we've had with the Leadership Council, you know, we are going through and we are evaluating even further refinement based on where existing sewer is located and where existing water is available to service the needs of all of our residents and all of our communities. So again, just in response, I do appreciate the comments. This is a complete work in progress in terms of what we're going forward. The action that I'm asking your commission to take is just to add existing residential lots to an inventory that already says where our existing residential lots are located. And again, the housing element in and of itself is not just about that one component. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to talk about some of the other things that we have done. I know that during this last year, we used $1 million to the Mountain View Village project, which created 41 affordable rental units that was constructed and completed in September of this year. I know that we have $1.6 million that we have been working with the Pioneer Cottages facility that is creating 37 affordable rental units. That construction will start in March of 2021. We are currently working under our agreements for the construction of 78 units in the year 2021, with 25 units at Terrence Way, 29 units at Water Street. Stevens Drive would have 12 units. Douglas Street would have 12 units. Part of our housing element is also having to do with how we are providing services for our homeless individuals. You know, part of this, the county this year has gone through and we've created our Navigation Homeless Shelter right across the street from downtown. We've had our Veterans Village project that was considered that provides units specifically for veterans. And we've had some recent retirement housing projects that were approved that allow us to have units for some of our elderly individuals. So again, a lot of work has been done. I do completely understand the concerns raised. However, staff disagrees that this particular action is not in compliance with the existing housing law. And, but again, we absolutely want to keep this line of communication open with the Leadership Council as we continue to work on these other items during this year and into next year to even provide more transparency and availability for our housing developers and our partners who develop these affordable housing units, because we do concur that there is a great need in the county in general, and we want to help work with everybody to identify not only those sites that are most viable, but to have a system in place that allows for even more of these developments to be accounted for.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And prior to opening this up to a discussion, is there any direct questions that any of our fellow commissioners have for Mr. Murphy? And I will ask Commissioner Sprague for those direct questions.
Mr. Murphy, Commissioner Sprague here. So with that said, is the staff's recommendation still to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve the general plan amendment as recommended and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution as written in our package?
Commissioner Sprague, yes, that is still the staff recommendation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Commissioner Sprague. Our other fellow commissioners that are not here tonight, any direct questions you have for Mr. Murphy prior to opening discussion?
No, thank you.
Commissioner McGiffney?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
With that said, Mr. Commissioner, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I'll just make one comment if you don't
Yes,
mind.
prior to motion, I said any commission, I'll turn to Commissioner Ashley.
Sure. I think that I commend the staff on this one again. I believe what Mr. Murphy said. This is a work in progress. This isn't meant to be an end-all, be-all, end-all thing. And so I think this is a great way to pick up these acres. No complicated rezoning or anything like that. These are ones that are just missed. It's a no-brainer to me. I'm personally impressed by all the things that we are doing to meet this. Some of those things I wasn't aware of, so I appreciate the update on those things as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Ashley. And again, prior to taking a motion, I also like to make a comment. I do also want to echo the comments made by my fellow commissioner here. I also am aware of that the county has been doing a lot to help build these type of units and to give those type of facilities in the county. And it's good to see, even with our current conditions, that we're still trying to develop and make economic gain for our community, especially in the housing sector. And based upon my understanding of the way this is laid out, the county still wants to be working with the Leadership Council to help clarify any comments. But this is just updating inventory list, which was just an older system that did not map correctly. So I also feel comfortable with moving forward with staff's recommendation on this item. So with that, I will then entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I would make a motion that this planning commission recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve the general plan amendment as requested and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Sprague. Can I have a second?
Second that.
Okay.
Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Judge?
Yes.
Mr. McGiffney?
Yes.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Since this is a general plan amendment, there is no right to appeal, and we'll go to the Board of Supervisors. So with that, I will turn to adjournment and ask for a motion for adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.